On today's episode of the Mark Titus Show, Feast Week is here, and it is delicious. Oh, my God. Yesterday, the Maui Invitational started, and 3 out of the 4 were bangers. No disrespect to Colorado, Michigan State, but when you stack up the other 3 games we got in the Maui Invitational versus that one, I mean, that one is the outlier. But the other 3 lived up to the hype. It was an incredible day of basketball. Maui is a magical place, and if I had to explain why I love the Maui Invitational more than really any other, it's like the NCAA tournament is 1 and Maui is 2 for me. I would point to yesterday as to why. I stayed up till 1:30 Central Time. I don't know how like people in North Carolina did it. I stayed up till 1:30. I'm an hour behind you guys. 2:30 a.m. for Tar Heels fans. I'm too old to stay up that late. I shouldn't be. That's way past my bedtime. We're recording this in the morning. I got barely any sleep. And there's something about Maui where you're like, this is fucking awesome. This is what this event is. It's the NCAA tournament and the Maui Invitational are the only things that can get me to stay up that late and like actually enjoy it. And I don't go to bed a grump. I don't wake up a grump. I woke up this morning on very little sleep and I was just like, goddamn, that was a fun day. What a fun day of basketball. And we get to do it again today. I want to talk mostly about Maui, but Feast Week is shaping up to be all-time stuff with an incredible slate tonight. Maui was so far everything we wanted it to be. Memphis, Uconn goes to overtime. Solo Ball hits the shot at the buzzer basically to send the game to overtime. Dan Hurley gets a technical foul, and what was probably a bad call, we'll talk about it, but Uconn gets upset by Memphis. A Memphis team that maybe is good, maybe... I mean, this was obviously an upset, but how good really can Memphis be? I think there was a lot of chatter before the season about Penny Hardaway's job status, about Penny Hardaway's lack of assistant coaches, about Penny Hardaway's what he had for lunch, about Penny Hardaway, like literally everything going on in Penny Hardaway's life, and how Memphis is an absolute shambles. But they got some talent that was on display yesterday, and if you watch that game, it felt like Memphis was just better from start to finish, and Uconn made a run late, and I think a lot of people were. Once it went to overtime, you're like, okay, now the real Uconn will show up. But I don't know, man. Memphis guard play was unbelievable. Hunter and Haggerty were unstoppable all day, and it made for an awesome game. And we'll talk about the Dan Hurley stuff as well because that became the story after the game. Auburn down 18, I think it was, to Iowa State. Iowa State just absolutely rolling. An Iowa State team that defense is never the question mark with them. It's typically offense when you point to Iowa State and you wonder how good they can be. They were lighting it up in the first half. And then a switch flips. Auburn, like, I'm fascinated by this Auburn team because it feels like when they just play loose, they are by far the best team in the country. The problem is, like, when they're not, they can be pretty bad. And we saw that in the first half. Like, they were just kind of disjointed and everything. And then in the second half, it was just like they were like, fuck it, we're down 18. Let's just hoop a little bit. Baker Mazzara was awesome. Janai Broome is very. I mean, he must have listened to the last show we did where Tate, you were pressing me on him being National Player of the Year. He's fucking monster. Tip in at the buzzer. Auburn moves on. Was a great basketball game. And then the nightcap, we get Dayton, North Carolina. Dayton's putting the screws to the Tar Heels. Carolina, it feels like RJ Davis is shooting them out of games. Elliot Cadeau's not playing well. They can't find a big man they can rely on. And then in the second half, kind of what I said about Auburn, it's like you get your back against the wall and you're in that environment. They were just playing loose. They were playing free. RJ Davis was just he was frankly just hitting shots. And when RJ Davis is hot, he is as good as anybody in the country. And Carolina wins it because there's a Kevin Durant situation, as I said on the broadcast. Toe on the line for Dayton as they hit the game time buzzer beater at like 2:30 Eastern, 2:15 a.m. Eastern. And that's the joy of Maui. That's the joy of Feast Week. It is, if you love college basketball, there is no better time outside of March than this week going on right now, and it is incredible. And I want to talk about the Maui Invitational. Maybe we'll talk a little bit about Duke, Arizona on Friday was not particularly an awesome game, and that's because Duke is really fucking good. And Duke they play tonight. They play Kansas. They play the number 1 team in the country tonight. Might want to talk about Tennessee too. This Tennessee team, I see you. I appreciate you, and I might want to spend some time talking about you because the Volunteers are a very, very interesting basketball team. They had a great weekend as well. But the bulk of today's show is the Maui Invitational, which continues today. So I'm excited to talk about Feast Week. We're going to do our best to cover it all. Let's get into it. All right, let's do Maui Invitational stuff first, I think, because I have half a mind to do like the weekend recap of of Duke and Tennessee, which are really the only two things I probably want to hit from the weekend. Maybe Rutgers, but TJ's been through enough. But at the same time, that was fascinating what happened at the Kennesaw State game. But it's the Maui Invitational. I am very much a Maui guy. You're slowly learning this about me, that like there's no limit to how much I will glaze the Maui Invitational. The limit does not exist. I fucking love it so much, and it's not just because like I've been there and experienced it, and I like that helps. Like when you experience that gym, I legitimately believe the Lahaina Civic Center is a top 5 college basketball venue, which seems a little crazy because it holds like 2,000 people, and it's not, it's no one's home court and all that sort of thing. When you go there, you sort of understand. But I have loved the Maui Invitational my entire life. I when I was growing up, I loved staying up late and watching it, and I grew up in a very strict household, but the one exception my parents would make was basketball, and it was always like you're never gonna miss school unless the NCAA tournament rolls around. Then we'll pull you out of school and you can come home and watch. You're never gonna stay up past your bedtime.
That's Indiana, right?
Unless there's a good game on.
That's the most Indiana thing I've ever.
So Thanksgiving week, man, we would just stay up so late and watch these games, and I just have such a fondness for this event, and a reverence for it. And yesterday, it's just like I don't know. I was like, this is why we Maui. Mm-hmm. This is exactly why we Maui.
Was that so? Usually I have work or I have basketball. I'm right in the midst of my season. Yesterday, I sat on the couch and watched 4 straight games in a row. Was yesterday the best day of Maui? Like that was.
It's up there, yeah. It's up there,
and you talk highly about it all the time. Like this is like even next year it'll be great. Whatever. Was that the best day in Maui history?
Fuck it, yeah. I'll say yeah, it was. Michigan State Colorado game wasn't particularly great, but the other 3 were awesome. Like I don't know how it gets any better than that.
Uconn came from 12 down. Mm-hmm. Auburn comes from 18 down. North Carolina comes from 21 down.
Yeah.
And even we'll get into it, but the Hurley stuff and the tip-in and everything. And what a day.
Yeah, what a day. So we'll go game by game, but I want to start with like broad Maui Invitational thoughts. Number 1, Bill Walton not being there is it hurts, man. It does. And no offense to Corey Alexander. I don't have a problem with Corey Alexander. Some people don't like him. Some people don't like everybody who calls games. I think the deal with the Florida game, when he was, I don't know if you know this story, but Corey Alexander's a Virginia guy. He played at Virginia. Virginia was playing Florida last year. I think it was last year. And there's basically a call. I forget the context, but there's like a controversial call, and Corey Alexander's like watching the replay, and he tells the ref like, you got it wrong, and it kind of fucked Virginia. And he played at Virginia, and Virginia people are like, dude, what are you doing, dude?
Why he got involved with the replay and ultimately alerted them
that they missed the call
to the wrong call,
and it fucked Virginia. And he's like a Virginia, I don't know if legend. I don't know. I'm not in.
I mean, Tony, very much in the right to be upset about.
Yeah, Tony Bennett's like, dude, you're our guy. What the fuck are you doing, dude? Yeah. So I don't know who. Like I was gonna say though, the reason I bring that up is like Virginia fans might like him, but probably not after that. I don't know who. I don't know Corey Alexander's standing in the college basketball community. So this is not a dig at him. Whatever. I'm gonna put him over there. But to go from Bill Walton to just like a straight and narrow and just like very, I don't know how to describe, just corporate, a basic announcer when you're watching Maui at midnight plus and it's well into the early morning hours. Bill Walton was just so perfect. Mm-hmm. He was just so perfect he understood what the Maui vibe was, and he it was just such perfect like commentary to like how your brain is feeling as you're watching basketball at 1 a.m. in Maui with like floral patterns on the court, and and people in flip-flops in the stands losing their minds, and like the whole scene was made for Bill Walton, and I felt his absence so immensely, and I knew I would, but like, boy, it hit like it was like a fucking gut punch. Like turning on the television at night to watch Corey Alexander calling the game instead of Bill Walton was like a gut punch.
He took a lot of heat last night too. I don't know if you saw the internet, but point being, it's tough to replace the legend. Everyone says that and everything. He also doesn't seem to have the right personality to replace a Bill Walton.
Bill Walton, dude, we don't need you breaking down. Like that's not what that spot is for, dude. You gotta like even Billis, who is controversial. Polarizing is a better way to put it. Billis can be polarizing for people. I think Billis understands Maui, and he when he gets out there, he lets his non-existent hair down. You know what I mean? Like he like understands the vibes of. And Corey Alexander was treating it like this is just another this is another basketball.
Yeah, I'm there to call the game.
Commentary job, and I don't know, but that's not a criticism of him. He does an all right job at what he's doing. It's just like I felt Bill Walton's absence immensely last night, and I just wanted to start with that because that really fucking sucked. The other thing I wanted to say was the reason Maui is so awesome as a tournament, and I think like this became evident as you watched the comebacks that were going on, and it wasn't really evident in the Michigan State Colorado game, which is the only thing I'll say about Michigan State Colorado. Michigan State can be a good team if they can figure out how to make shots. But if you can't make shots in Maui, I have no hope for you. If you can't hit threes in that gym, I have no hope that you're going to ever be able to shoot.
Did all four overs hit yesterday? Maybe 3 of the 4 overs
hit,
but 3 of them went over by a million.
So with the exception of the Michigan State-Colorado game, there's something about that gym. It's the soft rims people point out, and the rims are soft. You watch 5 seconds of basketball there. You watch one shot hit the rim at Maui, and you're just like, yeah, that's a different kind of rim. You could point out like the gym is hot, like it's a smaller high school type gym, so it feels like it's hotter in there and gets the guys like sweating and looser a little bit. The sight lines are better because you don't have like a lot of the arenas you look through the backboard and it fucks with your perspective at times, but like in Maui it's an easier shooting gym. The energy in the place. Maybe that factors in. But there's so obviously something about that gym and that event that is like magical. There's no other word to describe it. That like these comebacks that happen and the way like even Uconn who loses, solo ball hitting that shot to send it to overtime. McNeely like just stepping up and shooting from like 40 feet away, it felt like, and Caravan was hitting shots like that. There's something about that gym, and I think what it ultimately is just the whole scene invites a flow state for basketball that like guys that are out there, and once they start playing and once they get into the flow of the game, just like across the board, it feels like everybody's just in the zone. Everybody at all times is in the zone, and obviously there are exceptions, and you can point to guys like Elliot Cadeau didn't play well last night, and you're like, well, what about him? But that's what I've noticed throughout my life watching the Maui Invitational is that I don't know if it's any one factor. I don't know if it's the rims. I don't know if it is the crowds or whatever. Maybe it's all of it. Maybe it is just like the teams are on a quasi vacation where like they're chilling and some of the stress of outside life. You don't have a girlfriend, bothering you about shit or classes to go, and you're just like chilling on the beach, and then you go play ball and you're just kind of like in a zen state. Whatever it is, it just like it creates this atmosphere where you have basketball players that are just all fucking in the zone, and it's so awesome to watch.
I think, and additionally, all of that is true, and they're all in the zone, and they're all knocking down shots and everything. Tensions are high. Like even yesterday when there was the push at the end of the Uconn game, and Danny Hurley runs out, and then Penny Hardaway's out, and the coaches are screaming at each other. I think it is hilarious that all of that's going on, and then everyone's just wearing flip-flops.
Hawaiian shirts. Everyone.
Like they're screaming, you fucking bitch, you fucking, and they're all just wearing Hawaiian shirts. It's an incredible collection.
You should have seen Arkansas when they were out there. Muss had an all-time. I mean, it's Muss, so it shouldn't be that much of a surprise. But when they lost to Creighton, he lost his fucking mind, and Arkansas fans lost their mind. And like, I really felt like the Maui Invitational people were like worried Arkansas was just gonna fucking riot on the, but it was a more exaggerated scene than even that, just to see all these like Arkansas people and floral patterns, just like wanting to throw shit at refs.
Yeah, like
and
red
stuff.
face with the red Hawaiian shirt.
And then like 2 hours later they got a Mai Tai in their hand on the beach, and they're just like zoning out and just this is paradise, man. It's like, dude, 2 hours ago you were trying to fucking kill the ref.
It was great.
The Mark Titus Show is brought to you by DraftKings. The Emirates NBA Cup is here. You can win big getting in on the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Will LA repeat? We'll find out soon. There's sure to be rim-rattling slams and no-look passes that bring the crowd to their feet. Get behind your favorite players and the prop bets you can make on DraftKings, the home of NBA player props. Ready to place your first bet? Try betting on something simple like picking a team to win. Go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app and make your pick. First time, here's something special just for you. New DraftKings customers bet $5 to get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins. Score big with DraftKings Sportsbook. Every point counts. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code Titus. That's code Titus, Titus, for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins. When you bet just $5 only on DraftKings, the crown is yours. Anyway, let's talk about the game. So UConn Memphis is the first game of Maui Invitational. Memphis was, I said it at the top, I felt like Memphis was the better team for the entirety of the game, really. I mean, UConn comes back on the run. I watched the game here in the gambling cave with the
Oh, did you?
With a lot of the Barstool people, and they were live betting UConn, and because the UConn got down big, and obviously in the current state of college basketball, there is a belief that like UConn's just going to win every game, and even when they're down, you're like, it's UConn. They've won back-to-back national titles. That's why they entered the season. They're not the number one team in the country, but they were the betting favorite to win the national championship. It's just like the general public's like, I see UConn basketball jersey, I'm going to go ahead and assume that UConn's going to win. And outside of that stretch where they came back and tied it, and then everybody in the cave was like, oh my God, UConn's going to win. They're going to win by 15 in overtime. Memphis was better, and not just, it's easy to say because the score indicated that, but like it never felt like a fluke. It felt like, to me, this was if you're trying to make the argument that guard play matters more than anything else in college basketball, this is a game you could point to because UConn has a ton of talent on their team. Memphis has explosive guards who can create their own. And that is ultimately what the difference was to me, was that Tyrese Hunter and P.J. Haggerty were just, going back to what I said earlier, like in the fucking flow state, in the zone. And they could not be stopped. And I felt like UConn, that's a concern I have moving forward. And if I'm overreacting to one game, is like, does UConn have guards who can create their own, basically? Do they have the Tristan Newton replacement, so to speak? And they might believe that it's solo ball, I guess. They might have an Aiden Mahaney problem. Like he's not as good. He hasn't been as good all year as what they were hoping he would be. But that's what stood out to me was I felt like Memphis's guards were unstoppable. I mean, the stats bear that out. Tyrese Hunter had 26, Haggerty had 22 before he fouled out. And that was the story of the game, was just like Memphis's guards were fucking awesome.
I thought their guards were awesome, but I also thought my biggest takeaway was the resiliency of the Memphis team. The fact, like you just explained in the gambling cave, the fact that you're up 12 with 6 minutes to go and UConn comes all the way back.
Yeah.
The entire world is on UConn now.
Yeah.
And UConn goes up 4 in overtime with 2 minutes to go. The fact that, I don't know, I thought Penny Hardaway made a couple crucial mistakes down the stretch. But for his team to be able to come back after giving up that lead and going down in overtime, this Memphis team's pretty good.
They're pretty good. They definitely have talent, and maybe not having assistant coaches like a week before the season starts was smart by Penny. I don't know. Maybe that was somehow like maybe that's like his version of like the Auburn plane on the way to Houston, where it's like, this is actually a good thing. Like this chaotic situation we found ourselves in is actually good for us. I don't know.
It's like, maybe I can just do this all by myself.
Yeah. Fuck it. We got enough talent here. I'll figure it out. No, I mean, kudos to Penny. Penny's. I don't think Penny's a great basketball coach. I think Penny's very much on the hot seat entering the season. I don't think that's controversial to say, and a lot of people would say he should have been fired already. But
I mean, he should. His team performed yesterday, and that does ultimately go back to him. Speaking of fired, speaking of knowing basketball, can we talk about this phenomenon of calling fouling up 3?
What do you mean?
Penny chose not to.
Oh, not fouling up 3. Yeah. I think
that was one of the worst basketball decisions.
I know. I think if I was giving him the benefit of the doubt, I'd say there was too much time, and then UConn was dribbling the ball around. Like, you don't want to foul when there was like 14 seconds.
100%, but you have to have practiced the situation where it's like, hey, if it gets within 6, we're X. If it gets within,
I think it was Diarra that was dribbling around. When he dribbles in and then kicked it out, like as he was getting ready to kick it out to solo ball, that's when you obviously foul. And I guess if I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt, it's like they might not have.
But
they might not like once you're in the moment and you're guarding guy, like you don't have any fucking clue how much time's left, and you're just kind of
ultimately
in a chaotic
the shot did
situation.
go in with 0.9 seconds left though, so there was a time clearly.
But you're right. They should have fouled when Diarra picked up his dribble for sure. But yeah, I thought that this was an incredible game, and I am worried about UConn's guards, but I'm more worried about Dan Hurley. I think I'm more worried about the end of this game. Dan Hurley just completely unraveling and I think that's fair to say that he cost him the game, isn't it? That like if he doesn't get that tech, they probably do win.
I am a big Dan Hurley fan. And we've talked about him many times on here. And his fire is the reason why his team plays the way they do, and they execute the way they do, and they play hard the way they do. He is the reason why they've won back-to-back national championships. It is indisputable to say that yesterday he cost his team the basketball game.
Yeah.
By getting
by getting the tech at a crucial moment when the game was not over. Like that was
tied.
Okay, so first of all, I'll say this. I think it was a 65% bad call. Like I think it was like a 65-35, maybe a 70-30. We'll call it that way. Like I agree. It was if that happened to my team, it was a bad. I would be mad. I don't like the call, but it wasn't so egregious that like it wasn't like how could you possibly think that was a foul? It's like I mean he did kind of make contact with him as he was going over his back. I don't love the call. I'm not defending the call. What I'm saying is like if you're gonna lose your fucking mind,
right.
It's got to be like a. He wasn't even a foot. He didn't even come within a foot of touching him. How could you? It's got to be like a call like that.
The fact of the matter is he fell down and was on his back.
Yeah.
And so I actually hate the call. I really don't like it. I think what he said in the postgame was correct. I think that McNeely went up and high pointed the basketball. I think it was a grown man's rebound from McNeely. With that being said, a fall on your back on the sideline move out of the coach is like, hey, you called a random double dribble.
Yeah.
Or like, hey, you called over and back when the ball was tipped.
Yeah.
That's a fall on your back.
Yes.
Not an over the back, when you do make contact and the guy does have position on you.
Because it was ultimately a subjective call. And if it's a subjective call, you can't be that you can't lose your mind to that extent, I don't think. On a subjective call. Now if it's something like you said where it's like 2 seconds of a replay will show that you fucked this up, then yeah, maybe you lose your mind a little bit. My issue with this press conference, Tate, was Dan Hurley can have all the fire he wants. He can get his guys going. The Uconn fans, no Uconn fan watched that yesterday and was like, I don't know, man. Danny Hurley needs to clean it up a little bit. They're like, that's our fucking guy. That's our coach. He's defending our guys. My one issue. You can't attack the other team. You can't be in a post-game press conference and say the kid on Memphis half-assed it going for a rebound. That's fucked.
Here was my path of Danny Hurley yesterday. I think he's acting. I think he's throwing his dick on the ground way too much right now. Is he different now that he's a 2-time defending national champion?
Oh yeah.
100%.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Even from the get-go, it's like, dude, you're a lot right now.
Yeah.
Then I thought the technical foul was a huge look at me moment. It was a tie game with 40 seconds left. They're going to shoot 2 free throws. You give them 4 free throws.
Right.
Make it a 2-possession game with 40 seconds left. Now all of a sudden, you're in a free throw battle and you're in trouble. I was as out as you can be. His post-game press conference got me back in. Yeah. He's delusional.
He's crazy, yeah.
He said that the Memphis player half-assed it.
You can't do that. You can't do that. You can't. I mean, just like rip the refs. Talk about your guys. Talk about whatever.
My jaw hit the ground.
You can't say that a Memphis player half-assed. That's fucked. You just
lost the game.
You lost the
on your
because of you.
Foul.
And you take zero accountability and you call out the Memphis kid
who then went down and cashed free
throws and won the game for them. That's Bush League. It's Bush League.
But does he know it's Bush League? He's not a dummy.
I don't know.
But is he delusional?
I don't know because I think ultimately I think ultimately he believes that like this is why he's good and UConn's good, and like I think that like it's a self-suck situation where he's like this is what got me to this point, like this is why I am as good as I am, and it's like you can have all that fire. I ultimately wouldn't have a problem if he was calling out that was literally my only issue. I do think he cost them the game, and I think that like. If I was a UConn fan, I'd be like, that I don't love that he did that, but that's our coach being our coach, and he's won us 2 national titles this way, and I can't be too mad about a game in November, giving up a game in November like that. The one thing that that is indefensible, and if Danny Hurley, you know, in a perfect world, he would take accountability and be like, I shouldn't have said that, and at some point in the coming days would be like, I apologize, is you can't call out the opposing team's player for half-assing a rebound as though he had anything to do with it. That was so fucked.
His post-game press conference was literally like if you gave you and I like 45 minutes to prepare like a troll speech.
Yeah.
It's like, how can we so he goes at the Memphis player, then he goes at the referees, and he's like, now the one person, I didn't even know he was a college ref. Great insult.
Yeah.
The other two, I do know they're college refs, and it makes perfect sense why the game went the way it did. But I just don't know if it was. And the other thing I have a question on is this. Do you think UConn fans are now saying that it was intentional that he did that type of thing? Like,
to get the team going or something?
But like it's okay to lose a game in November. He wouldn't do it in March. I think he lost his emotional control and got the technical. I don't think there was any intent behind it at all.
Yeah, come on, man.
Bullshit.
He wasn't like, I'm gonna do this now. Oh shit. Okay, so foul over the back. Okay, we're tied, but there's 40 seconds left. Fuck it, I'll throw this game away and get us ready for March. Like, no, there's no way.
Unbelievable. I had UConn fans in the replies being like, listen, he knew exactly what he was doing. You know, you drop this game in March, it fires him up. Bullshit. He can't control himself. That's the problem. And he thinks he's a great coach, 2-time defending national champion. He's different than he was.
He literally said that for us to be 2-time champs and get that call is crazy. And it's like,
again, what a troll.
About?
I need to know if he was trolling, if he's delusional. Because he thought that the 2-time defending champs should get a different whistle.
Yeah. My other issue, and I said this about Muss a couple years ago when Musselman made an ass of himself on the island, and Arkansas fans were coming at me, and they're like, that's our coach, though. That's what he does. He brings the fire. That's why he's good. And I was like, listen, man, you can do that shit. I'm just really protective of the Maui Invitational. Do that shit elsewhere. But, like, when you come to Maui, like, have the fire, get the technical foul, have the fire when you're coaching, all that sort of thing. You gotta rein it in the post game press conference. You gotta fucking throw on the Hawaiian shirt. You gotta respect the event, the scene, the whole thing. Yeah, you're in a community that just burned to the ground, and fucking, you know, like they're throwing the Maui, the greatest tournament outside of the NCAA tournament in college basketball, and the whole community burned to the ground. And finally, they're bringing the Maui Invitational back, and this is the first game back in Maui, and like, you know, like all of the outside factors leading to this, and Dan Hurley makes it about himself in the post-game press conference and just trolls everybody, which, yeah, like in a random-ass Big East game in January,
pretty funny.
That plays.
That's
perfect. That's absolutely perfect. And Madison Square Garden, the Big East tournament, that's perfect. And Maui, get that shit out of here. It doesn't belong in Maui. Get the fuck out of here with that shit.
How does he come back today? Because he's got Colorado, and let me say this, pray for Colorado. If I know Danny Hurley from what I saw yesterday, do they come out and just – does he still have the fire, or is he cool and calm and collected?
No, they're gonna beat the shit out of Colorado, I think. And I do, and I don't expect it. And I'm not someone that's like clutching my pearls and is like, Danny, you owe this to me and the college basketball community to apologize. But yeah, I mean, in a perfect world, I would love for Dan Hurley to beat the shit out of Colorado today, go to the post game press conference, be like, I lost my mind a little bit yesterday. But
you want that?
But
could you see it happening?
I could, because when things are going well, Danny Hurley is very charismatic and fun to be around. Mm-hmm. And when he's winning national titles, he's like the coolest guy in the world. When he's losing, and before they started winning national titles, I think the perception of him was that he was just a whiny little bitch. And it's funny how winning, you know,
has
I mean, it's true.
That.
Yeah, it's true. Like you watch UConn, like before they won national titles, I mean, like even UConn fans, like he would just get tossed out of games randomly. And like UConn fans would be like, I think I love this, but also like, is our coach a clown? And then now he's winning titles, and they're like, fuck, that's our guy. I love him. You know, winning cures all. So I think like he wins today and they win big. Then he can put on a smile and you know, get in the post game press conference, be a little self-deprecating, and it smooths things over. And I hope he does that, but we'll see.
One thing we didn't talk about, we talked about the call on the over the back. What do you think about the officiating on the technical? Now, obviously, we don't know exactly what was said, but I do think he has somewhat of a point there that if you just called that over the back, maybe you just let the coach ride you for a little bit with 40 seconds to go.
I don't know. It depends on what he said, I guess, which I think when we read his lips, he's like, that you're a fucking joke or something like that.
Yeah.
He said at one point. He's got the Jackie Moon thing to him where he will just.
What do you mean by that?
Where Jackie, he'll just say, I'll fucking kill your family, and like, and then what did I say? And he gets teed up and he's like, what did I do? I didn't even say anything.
But to his credit, I will say He does that shit in the first half.
Yeah.
He does that shit if you don't like if it's too early of a jump ball in the first half, he'll let you know that too. So I do think there's something to be said if he's going to act like that all game without getting a technical. I don't think you can give him one with 40 seconds left.
Yeah, or I guess the ref would argue the other point is like, I mean, I've warned him 800 times throughout the game, and then he said, "I'm gonna fucking skull fuck you, you piece of shit."
He might have said that.
And then I turned to him and I was like, "What?" And he said, "I'm gonna say it clear. I will skull fuck you, you piece of shit." And he's like, "I mean, I have to tee you up, Dan." He's like, "What did I say? What? What a kid."
Oh, he's a character.
No, he cost him the game, but whatever. I'm not out on UConn, winning a national title. I think the talent's there. I do think. I mean, I said it earlier. I think Mahaney's an interesting situation. This was the concern going into the season. When I was waffling about UConn, and I said I did it last year too, and I'm going to do it this year. I'll probably do it next year. It's hard to maintain that level of consistency. We're obviously winning national titles over and over. Like, no one's won 3 national titles in literally a couple generations. 3 national titles in a row. It's hard to keep that level of consistency because, especially in the modern era, when the rosters are cycling through, you gotta hit on all your big time transfers. You gotta hit on your big time recruits. And Liam McNeely has been pretty good for them. And I think he didn't have a great game. He got hot late for him, but I think he's been pretty good, and I think if you ask UConn people, you'd say, yeah, he's carrying his weight, and he's exactly what we expected. I don't think Mahaney is, and I don't know if it's too early to give up on him or not, but they need more out of him if they are going to win 3 national titles in a row. And so far, he just hasn't, because he was thought to be, the heir apparent to a Tristan Newton or the long line of great UConn guards that they have. Obviously, he's not going to be an NBA prospect on that level. But he is, after 2 years at St. Mary's, he didn't put up massive numbers, but St. Mary's is the slowest team in college basketball, so it's like, take that with a grain of salt. I do think that they thought he would be better than what he is. He would be a knockdown shooter. He would, create some offense for UConn, and it's too early to make a final judgment. I do think he hasn't been like completely atrocious, but to me that stood out, especially when you contrast it to what Memphis's guards were doing, and you're watching UConn, and then you think back on Stephon Castle and Tristan Newton in the national title game, and like what that looked like when, like, that was the last game we saw from last year's iteration of UConn was their guards just swallowing Purdue alive, and then now this is the first big UConn game that we see this year. And it's the complete opposite, and then the other team's guards are kind of beating the shit out of UConn's guards. I don't know. It's just something to keep an eye on, and I don't want to overreact to one game, but I definitely was watching that as the game was progressing. Even as UConn sent it overtime, I was just thinking, this is interesting. So we will monitor that situation, as they say. And UConn has another good test coming. Like Colorado's probably they're almost surely going to beat Colorado today. But Dayton or Iowa State waiting in Game 3 will be another good test for them. So, that's the thing about Maui too, is you focus on the winners bracket, but the losers bracket gets pretty interesting as well. All right, let's talk about Auburn, Iowa State, the third game of the day.
The 83-81 4-5 in the country tip in, that was the second best game of the day.
Yes, that one. The buzzer beater that Janai Broom tipped in. Number 4 versus a top 5 matchup on ESPNU. Now, I know Monday Night Football was going on, and I'm not here to argue that this game should supersede Monday Night Football. But why is every Iowa State basketball game, every fucking Iowa State basketball game, unless they're playing Kansas, is on ESPNU? I don't understand how this happened. Iowa State is one of the best basketball I don't know what the number is, 10, 15, best 15 basketball programs in the last X number of years. They've been consistently good. They are Final Four good this year, and I feel like every single time I'm watching Iowa State play, they're on ESPN.
It felt disrespectful, and it made sense. What was on? Is ESPN2 the Manning cast?
It was the Manning cast, yeah.
So
I understand how it happened. It's just like, man, if the way the draw shook out is like, why couldn't Iowa State play the first game of Maui or the second game? And the answer is because Iowa State just has to play on ESPNU. Like every Iowa State game is on ESPNU.
That's a whole nother topic though as well. And I know we talked about it last time, and I know there's conference, play. They might not have wanted Colorado to play Iowa State, whatever. This 4-5 in the country may be the best 2 teams there. It kind of stinks that it was the quarterfinal matchup.
Yeah. It does. They should have. So I guess they wanted to put Iowa State and Colorado on different sides of the bracket because they're in the same conference. But then why not just switch Iowa State and Colorado and have Iowa State play Michigan State and Colorado play Auburn?
It does not take the smartest person in the world to do that.
I don't know. When I'm running the Maui Invitational, I will.
I could actually see that in your future.
See that? That's what I'm working towards.
My
that's
goodness.
the only thing
So
I
is there
want.
a chairman? There has to be.
There is Dave Odom. Yeah, he's the guy, old Wake Forest coach.
Met him?
Yeah, nice guy. I think I sort of feel like Roy Williams might be angling for that job, but he's of the same generation as Dave Odom. So I think when Dave Odom decides to pass the torch, I don't think he's passing it to Roy Williams. I don't think I'm the guy. I'm obviously not going to be the guy that gets it from Dave Odom. I don't know if I'm going to get it from the guy who got it from Dave Odom, but if I can get it, and stick with me, from the guy who got it from the guy who got it from Dave Odom, we might be onto something.
That's not a bad idea. I will say this. We got to get that Kansas Board of Regents out here. Dave Odom, 82 years old.
Yeah, he's
born in 1942.
Yeah.
What a retirement job.
Oh, it's a bad. That's the thing working against me is like I want it badly, but I feel like I feel like Jay Wright's just gonna wake up in 10 years and be like, I kind of want to get back into basketball. Should I just live in Maui and run the Maui Invitational? And they're just gonna
make the bracket.
Yeah.
Well, I will say, Dave Odom, you did mess up the bracket. You did mess up.
Call it out an 82-year-old. Call it out an 82-year-old.
Sorry.
Okay, so Auburn, Iowa State, playing on ESPNU because that's what Iowa State does. No matter how good they are, every game's on ESPNU. Auburn, in the first, it was obviously a tale of two halves. Iowa State scores 49 points in the first half. Auburn's defense, it looks so dominant against Houston and looks like it could be potentially one of the best defenses in the country. It is one of the best defenses. It could be the best defense in the country eventually, maybe. Gives up 49 points. Iowa State is kind of hitting everything. That's kind of been the one weakness with Iowa State is like shooting, and when they're hitting threes, they do look unstoppable. Keyshawn Gilbert was, I felt, really the entire game just in total control of depending on your perspective, he's kind of, dirty's not the right word, he's got the Chris Paul type shit where there was the one play where he's on the sideline by Auburn's bench and he turns around. I don't know if it was Baker Mazzara he saw trailing. I forget, Miles Kelly maybe. He sees a guy running behind him and he just sticks his ass out and draws the foul that way and then falls to the ground and throws the ball and they obviously have to call the foul. He's really good at that stuff and depending on your perspective, that's a guy who's in total control and knows
how to play the game.
Knows how to
control the game. I love it.
Or he's kind of a shady piece of shit.
Which side do you fall on? That's how I want my guards to be.
I fall on if you're seeking that out, if that is the meat and potatoes of what you're bringing to the table, I don't like it. If that's like one wrinkle you have to your game, then I don't mind it.
Yeah, there's a difference between playing full go at all time and just pace, but the ability to get in front of someone, slow down, draw.
No, it's not that. It's more that like he's driving to the bucket. The basket's right here. He could just go up and lay it in, but there's another player. There's a defender over there, so he takes like a crow hop over here, jumps into this guy, and then like to draw the foul. And it's that sort of thing that's like technically, if I was a coach, I would say good play. As a viewer, I'm like, kind of just wish you would have laid it in. But I also tip my cap and say like that's that's indicative of a guard who's like playing under control and has full control of this game, and I felt like Keyshawn Gilbert was that all game for them. But the second half, Auburn basically just started making shots, and I've realized that like when Auburn is just like hooping, that's the only way I'd put it is like the Tahab Pettiford in the second half of the Houston game. It was the Houston game. The first half felt like it was the feeling out, and you're trying to like unlock this elaborate puzzle in front of you. It felt like that. And then the second half, Auburn was just like, fuck it, let's just hoop. I felt similar vibes in this game where Auburn was just like, I imagine Bruce Pearl's like, we're overthinking things. Let's just go out there and hoop. You're open, hit shots. They started doing that. The confidence started flowing. And Iowa State, their offense just kind of went away. And in the end, Janai Broom with the tip in, and Auburn puts 50 points up in the second half. Was it maybe just that basket? Was it the basket going to the left or the right? Which one was it would have been the left.
So the basket differential was 99 to 65.
Yeah. The basket as you're watching on TV to the left was the one that
we did have 3 huge comebacks yesterday. I need to do a study.
Hold on, let's think about it. Carolina
Carolina
went to the right though.
Because it was 110
their bench was,
to 72 in that one.
Dayton's bench was on the left.
Man, we almost just solved something.
Memphis's bench was on the left. Yeah, we almost cracked the code. Anyway, Janai Broome, betting favorite to win National Player of the Year this morning.
Did you see the odds?
I did.
That was. I feel like it stinks because it was on ESPNU, and I'm gonna cross sports here. That tip in was almost like a Heisman moment for him. Yeah. Because now they've beaten Houston, and now they've also beaten Iowa State. That's 2 top 5 teams right there.
He needs those moments because when we last talked about it, I wasn't saying that Janai Broome shouldn't win National Player of the Year, and if he ends up winning it, I think that's a fine pick. And so far he's certainly made his case. I think what ultimately will hurt him in making his case for National Player of the Year is just flashy moment. He's not a flashy basketball player, which is not a criticism at all, and he doesn't need to be, and he doesn't owe it to me to be flashy. I'm saying that like the people that vote on this stuff, all things being equal, they're going to vote for, it worked against Cooper Flagg against Kentucky, but they're going to vote for the guy who in a tie game, he's got the ball like clearing out everybody, and that's going to be Cam Jones, and that's going to be Cooper Flagg, and Janai Broome's not going to be that guy. He's just like a fundamentally sound player. But the one thing that he will be, and it's not to say Cam Jones won't be, and RJ Davis won't be, and some of these other guys, he is as consistent as they come.
He's going to be a 20 and 10 guy.
Every single time he takes the floor, he's stuffing the stat sheet, and he's going to do it for who may end up being the number 1 team in the country when we leave Maui. In fact, I'm going to say it: if you win the Maui, whoever wins the Maui Invitational should be the number 1 team in the country, including Memphis. Really? I think I'm so high on the Maui Invitational.
That's Maui bias.
Yeah.
That's okay. Fair.
Yeah. No fucking shit. It is. It's the Maui bump. I think the Maui Invitational is the best event we have outside of the NCAA tournament. I think if you win it, I think you go into a field with 3 top 5 teams, 7 top 40 KenPom teams, and you come out of that and win, and you definitively say we're the best of this group. I don't know. It feels like number 1.
If Auburn wins, there can't be a debate. They'll have beaten 3 top 10 teams, whatever. If Kansas beats Duke tonight and Kansas has beaten North Carolina,
if Kansas
beaten Michigan State, that's a
if
pretty
North
good
Carolina
match.
wins and Kansas has beaten them, I guess Kansas has a good case over North Carolina, I would imagine. But Kansas was you can't vote for Kansas, or you can't vote for North Carolina over Kansas.
Right.
There's really no argument there. But I don't know. The Maui field's been awesome, and it's delivered. But Auburn's got to figure it out for 40 minutes.
Sure.
I think if you're an Auburn fan, one, you're winning these games. So you're like, we're not worried about it at all. I wouldn't even be a little bit concerned that you get down 16 or whatever. You don't want to make a habit of it, obviously, but I think if you're an Auburn fan, you're like, if we can just not dig these holes, if we can apply a little bit of what we're bringing in the second half to the first half. When Auburn is at their best, they do look like the best team in the country.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what I was going to ask you, though. You just hit the nail on the head. For you to have these types of comebacks, at some point things weren't going well.
Yeah.
Like for you to get down 18 yesterday, at some point things were not going well for you. And that's not a good thing to have happening as we go on in the year.
I still need to figure out what's going on with Todd Pettiford and why he's not playing more. I don't fully understand it. He played 19 minutes in this game, scored 14 points. I haven't watched every second of Auburn basketball this year. I lock in on the bigger games, and the two biggest games that Auburn's played. He's been pretty fucking good. Mm-hmm. And not only that, he brings the element of what I've said about them a handful of times now, is like they're at their best when tempo's getting picked up a little bit. They're pressing. They're causing turnovers. They're creating a little bit of chaos for the other team. And ultimately, it feels like they're just out there hooping. And he's a hooper, man. Like that's what that guy does. And I know he's a freshman, and I don't know what's going on in practice. If Bruce Pearl needs to see more want to out of him in practice and shit like that. But like when I'm watching these games, I'm like, this guy is obviously. He might be your most naturally talented player. Why is he not starting? Why is he not playing more than 19 minutes?
I think that's interesting because obviously the games we watched the Houston game, we watched the Iowa State game. He's been electric in both. If you look at their box scores, though, they have 3 other games. He hasn't played well in the other 3. Like he was
That must be it, yeah.
Scoreless in their first one. Didn't shoot well against Kent State. Didn't shoot well in their other one. He shot 40% and 63% from 3 in their 2 biggest games.
Yeah, I mean, I could see.
He might be a gamer.
I could see that. Like he's just kind of he plays the level of his competition maybe, and Bruce Pearl wants more out of him consistently. But everything I've seen out of that kid, I'm like, he's
awesome.
We need more minutes out of this guy. Yeah, I think ultimately that's going to be that's what's terrifying. If you're not an Auburn fan, I guess that's what's encouraging. If you are an Auburn fan, is like I think there's still some lineup stuff to figure out, and once they like figure out the combinations they like and all that, they have so much length and athleticism, man, and talent, and once shots start falling, they're very, very good. Baker Mazzara is good, man.
Yes,
he's a guy that I said this last time after the Houston game, but he's kind of got a reputation nationally as a bit of a bozo, and we saw the flagrant foul on R.J. Davis. But I mean, to his credit, like I feel like that might be technically the right call. You know what I'm talking about? He put 2 hands on R.J. Davis, and then they said like he extended his hands. I thought he was trying to hold him to make him not fall down, and then R.J. spills into the crowd, and he goes over and helps him up. I think Baker Mazzara has actually been like not the buffoon on the court that like we saw last year as much, and 2, he's been a really, really good player for them.
Really good.
And I don't know. I don't know if he's like turned a corner in that regard. I mean, he was pretty good from last year too. But I think I've been impressed by what he's brought to the table for Auburn, because I do think that, especially the way the NCAA tournament went last year and he got ejected, and that was the last we saw of him last year. I think he has a reputation as just kind of being like there's potential there, but he's a little bit of a head case, and he hasn't been that this year, at least from what I've seen. So. I really like this Auburn team. I really like this Iowa State team too, by the way. Momcilovic is nasty when he gets rolling, and I love watching him play. The turnaround jumper he had in the first half when he was just feeling it, I was like, give me more of that. Mm-hmm. And he was just confidently stepping into threes and hitting. Lipsy didn't play particularly well offensively, but I like this Iowa. The defense is great. They force everything to the sideline. They're all like moving in one unit. They're all locked in, and it's it's tough to make that case when they just gave up 50 points in the second half. But I still believe long term in Iowa State defensively, and I think that they have. I think with Gilbert and Momcilovic and Lipsy, they have enough offense. They just have to you got to get like Joshua Jefferson, who was 2 for 3 from 3 in this game. Curtis Jones hit a couple threes. You got to get like those. If those guys are hitting their wide open looks, I think Iowa State is national title good. Mm-hmm. That's going to be the difference in there and how good they can be. The defense is always going to be awesome, even though they give up 50 to Auburn. That was more of like a tempo situation, I think. But the offense is, if the offense devolves into just like Keyshawn Gilbert trying to make shit out of nothing and Momcilovic just hitting turnaround fadeaways, they could be in trouble. But I believe in them long term. I think that the offense will come around, and that's really the only question mark with them. So, someone had to lose this game, and I don't think Iowa State's fraudulent at all.
That's a tough pill for now Dayton to have to see today in the losers bracket is the Iowa State Cyclones.
Yeah,
who very well might be the best or second best team in this entire field.
Yeah. They might be the best.
They might be the best. Shit, they were up 49-30.
Yeah, they're tipping away from, they're one bounce of the ball away. I mean, Houston could say the same thing. They were right there with Auburn as well. Auburn is probably, if Auburn does win the Maui Invitational, I think they should be the number 1 team in the country. But if you're Iowa State or Houston, you're like, not that they needed moral victories, but yeah, you're right there against who might end up being the best team in the country. I don't think there's any shame in that at all. But now let's go beat Dayton and let's beat UConn if you're Iowa State.
That Iowa State-UConn game will be one hell of a losers bracket championship.
So Iowa State or UConn, there's going to be a top 5 team that leaves with 2 losses.
Wow.
Leaves Maui with 2 losses.
Yeah.
There's guaranteed to be a top 5 team that goes 1 and 2 at Maui. And this is why Maui is the best. North Carolina, Dayton.
2 a.m. tip-off? That was the latest game.
Oh.
That's my one qualm so far with the Maui.
What, as late? That's a feature. That's a feature, brother. That's not a bug.
So late.
That's the point, dude. My head was hurting. Like it was so late that like my head's pounding. I'm like, and this isn't a complaint. This is the opposite, and this is why Bill Walton was so good. Is like you get into just like this delirious state where you're on your couch and your head hurts and your like eyes are heavy, and you're not really sure what you're watching. Because again, like this scene in Maui is unlike anything else, and with the fans themselves, every time they cut to the crowd, and you see Roy Williams with Leia on his shirt, and he's like he took a charge and he's spilling into the crowd. He's like getting up and thumbs up in people, and yeah, and you're just kind of like, what's going on? What am I watching? It's perfect. And there were like 5 or 6 moments where I'm watching that North Carolina Dayton game, and I know it's live, but I still had to check whether it was live because I was like, this is there's no way they're playing this right now. And then I'm like checking my score apps, and I'm like, yeah, it says it's live. It says it's like I thought like I needed to catch up on the DVR or something. And I was like, there's no way they're fucking playing this right this second. But that's what made Bill Walton awesome, is like when you're in that mental state as a viewer, and then you have Bill Walton talking about God knows what. It was just a perfect combination. But North Carolina Dayton, I'll say this about North Carolina. Great comeback, obviously, down 21. They score 59 points in the second half to win 92-90. Dayton has a toe on the line on the game-tying shot, and that ultimately proved to be the difference. I cannot figure out how much to trust North Carolina long-term. I'll say that Seth Trimble, Elliott Cadeau, R.J. Davis, that three-headed monster they have, when they are playing well, they are as good as anybody. As a team, as a collection of guards, one, but as a team too. Like I think Carolina is every bit a national title contender when those three guys are rolling. The problem is that it does feel like you're just going to be riding the R.J. Davis roller coaster all year. Mm-hmm. It feels like the R.J. Davis was not great in the first half. R.J. Davis has not shot the ball well all year. He came alive in the second half and won them the game and was unstoppable. I mean, Trimble was awesome too, but R.J. Davis becoming the player that we've seen him through the years and that we expect him to be this year, he became that player in the second half. I thought that was the difference, and it's exciting. It's encouraging. You watch the second half, you're like, holy shit, no one's going to be able to hang with this Carolina team. I don't know what big guys they trust. And I don't know if you can trust that Trimble and Cadeau and R.J. Davis are going to consistently shoot the ball well, and just play well as a unit every single night to really trust Carolina long term. But that second half, you saw what their potential can be, and that's exciting. I think if you're a Carolina fan.
My biggest takeaway was, especially in the second half, Trimble and Davis were incredible. And if you can play like that, you can beat anyone. I don't think you can string together 6 of those in a row
for an NCAA tournament.
Yeah, I mean, they have to be great for them to win. And in the second half, they were. In the first half, they were not, and that's why they were down 18 points to Dayton. I don't think you can consistently ask 2 or 3 guards to be great.
Yeah, and not these 2 or 3. I mean, that's not a shot at them, but they're not.
Like R.J. Davis needs to shoot well, needs to shoot like he did in the second half, needs to play like he did for them to beat a good team.
Yeah,
that's a lot to ask.
But with his shot selection, he's not going like he's a volume shooter, and I don't have. It's tough because I don't have a problem with him shooting some of the shots he shoots because like you watch this game and you realize like R.J. Davis getting hot is kind of North Carolina's offense at times. It's like that's what we need from him. So when you're watching the first half and he's bricking everything. He hit his first one, but he hasn't been shooting well really at all this season from deep. When you're watching him brick shots, you're like, can we move the ball more? Can we get some more guys involved? That sort of thing. But then you see the second half, and you're like, I guess that's why you have to trust him, and you have to just trust the vision that like when R.J. Davis is, it's not even just that he's shooting a lot. It's just kind of some of the shots he does take, like the fast break pull ups where he stopped on a dime on a fast break where I don't know if he got the rebound or got a quick outlet pass, and he just dribbles up and shoots from like 17-foot pull up from just behind the free throw line, and hit and bricked it on the back of the rim, and then I forget what happened next. That's not a bad shot. It's just kind of I think if anyone other than R.J. Davis takes that shot, you're like, what are we doing? There's a lot of like ambiguity of how much of a green light R.J. Davis should have, and I think that is kind of a problem with North Carolina. It's like I think within their locker room there's not ambiguity. I think they're like, RJ, shoot whatever you want. I'm saying as like a neutral observer trying to figure out how much I should trust them. I don't know where I fall on like where the green light should be for RJ Davis.
It feels to me a little bit like Arizona, where it's like, hey, they'll go if Caleb Love goes.
Yeah.
North Carolina will go if RJ Davis goes. I don't know. I've said it already, but if you have to rely on someone that shoots the ball 20 times a game to shoot well, yeah, you're going to win some games. Yeah, you're going to lose.
You're going to lose some.
Yeah, at some
too.
point you're going to lose a game you shouldn't because one person doesn't shoot well.
They have to figure out Jalen Washington. He's not bad, but they have a massive. But he might be bad. He's not bad, but he might be bad. They have an Armando Bacot vacancy that they just have no answer for right now.
Mm-hmm.
And excuse me, I wasn't a huge Armando Bacot fan in the sense that I never liked when North Carolina played through him. I never thought Armando Bacot should be. It's kind of what like Hunter Dickinson is at Kansas. He's a good player. I just don't think that you should. He should be the number one option, feature, and that should not be like your feature guy. Armando Bacot's at his best when he's just cleaning up the offensive glass. If he gets good post position, dump it down to him, let him turn around in a little baby hook maybe. And let him run the floor and hit him in transition for some easy rim runs, right? That's what I feel like that should be the Armando Bacot diet. So I've said that through the years about that guy. Now that he's gone, though, if you were someone who very much believed that Armando Bacot was awesome, you're pointing to this North Carolina team right now to make your case, and you're like, they could use Armando Bacot. Yeah, they could use a big guy, huh?
The fact that their big guys pulled down 3 and 5 rebounds. I mean, Seth Trimble led them in rebounds with 10.
Yeah.
They could use someone out there to just go. You and I are both on the same page that guards win, and they do have really good guards. They could use a little someone in there to bang, though.
They need some physicality for sure. I think the first half, though, you could just say that the turnovers were their problem. They were the number one turnover team in the country in the good way. I mean, that they never turned the ball over. They're averaging like 7 a game heading into the Dayton game, and I think they had 12 at halftime. They were throwing the ball all over the place. Cadeau ended up with 6 in the game. RJ Davis had 4. Dayton's defense, they were getting after him, and I think that was why Dayton built a 21-point lead. Was Carolina was bricking shots if they were even getting those shots off, if they were not turning the ball over before they even got the shot off, and if they do get the shot off, they're bricking it. But the Dayton part of this, I like this Dayton team. I think Dayton fans were high on their team coming into the season, and having a guy like Posh Alexander off the bench is fucking awesome for a program of Dayton's caliber. Which he's like all Big East defense and led the Big East in steals for 3 years in a row, something like that. And he's been around the block a million times and knows college basketball well. And he's not a super duper star, but to have a guy like him be able to come off the bench and he played pretty well in this game, 6 assists and 11 rebounds, 24 minutes. That just speaks to how much talent that this Dayton team does have. And I think the A-10 is not what it used to be, where the A-10 used to feel like the A-10 could get 5-6 bids. I don't think it's that anymore, and I think Dayton's primed to just like wreck teams in that league.
Yeah, I think
Dayton's primed to be.
I thought Zed Keat played well. Big Zed.
Yeah, I have a confession about Zed.
What you got?
I miss him.
Really?
I miss Zed, and I don't know how good Zed is. In fact, I would say he's probably not that good. And by the time he left Columbus, he was. There were far too many instances where I was like, yeah, I can't defend that. I feel like that was pretty dirty. I feel like that had some Grayson Allen vibes. Yeah, Zed, you kind of did just stick your leg out there. You kind of did just push the guy over unnaturally when you didn't. The play was over here, and you kind of did just make it seem like the hook and hold there was a little dirty. There were too many of those plays, and he was not that good. But at the same time, he was an energy guy. He's a great locker room guy. And I'll never, as long as I live, I will never forget him stripping the ball from Zach Edey 5 times. Literally 5. Zed Keat came into the Purdue game, played like 18 minutes, something like that. He had 5 steals and 4 fouls.
He hit 5 fouls last night in his 20 minutes.
Yeah, and he's just like a physical, I'm gonna hack the shit out of you. I'm gonna bring the energy guy. And I think Dayton fans are gonna like him because I think it's a perfect level for him, and that's not a slight on Dayton, but the A-10 is not the Big Ten, and right. I think he will. That's a perfect level for him where he will not have to resort to dirty tricks quite as much, to where Dayton fans won't have to have the uncomfortable conversation with themselves that I've had about Zed Keat through the years. But I miss him. I want to. Especially now that Ohio State needs big guys. But
no shit.
I was watching him last night. I was like, man, I even if Zed was only playing like 10 minutes a game for us.
We could use them.
I would have loved Zed to get an and one and do finger guns and raise the roof and all that shit he used to do.
Hey, speaking of Dayton, I got to shout out. So Dukes, who does the social for us. Dukes, you kept me up last night. Dukes' halftime update had me fired the fuck up. Dukes, I got to shout you out one thing. That free throw differential last night, 34-15.
Mm-hmm.
Not right, Titus. That ain't
you don't
right.
like it?
It ain't right.
Yeah.
I think the call might have been in down in Maui that they needed the Stars to continue to move forward.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Dayton was chucking a bunch of threes.
Yeah, that's true. Don't tell Dukes that.
And Dayton plays physical defense, man.
They do.
They get after it. But they had
15.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guys in double figures, and Bennett had 9 for Dayton. So
that's good.
1 point away from seven
crazy.
guys in double figures. Yeah, they were sharing the rock, and Santos is an awesome player. I love that guy. He had the bloody nose, stuck the gauze in his nose, and
anytime I see that, I love it.
Tough son of a bitch. Malachi Smith's great. I like the Dayton team a lot. It's a tough loss, man. Giving up 59 points in the second half is tough.
And again, the losers are the losers yesterday because now Dayton has to play a tougher team today.
Yeah,
like
it doesn't
Dayton
get any easier. Yeah,
you were up. How quickly things change. You were up 18 at the half against North Carolina. Now you're 0-1, and you got to go play Iowa State.
Mm-hmm. That's tough. It sucks. The Mark Titus Show is brought to you by Cars.com. Want to find a trustworthy dealer? Want to find dealership reviews from shoppers like you? Cars.com offers the latest research, shopping tools, and dealership reviews to help every shopper find the perfect car. Shop by monthly payment or filter by features to find the cars that fit your budget and needs. Visit Cars.com and start exploring your next possibility today. Michigan State, Colorado also happened. I think I said everything that needed to be said about that. Michigan State, Colorado's not a good team, and Michigan State
2 of 21 from the 3-point
line.
line.
I think you have to believe that they're gonna start hitting shots at some point.
They shot 9%.
But do you have to believe
9.
that they're gonna start hitting shots?
My question for you is this:
I don't think they are. I think they're gonna have 1 or 2 games where they get hot, and then it feels like Michigan State may have turned a corner, but if you can't make shots in Maui, you're fucked, dude. And you can't make shots against a bad team in Maui, you're fucked.
Right, they were the only team that couldn't. My question is, why don't they have people that can make shots? Like Michigan State, the brand still carries water. Tom Izzo still carries water. Why are they shooting 9% in Maui?
Don't know.
You can get dudes.
I don't know. Like some of the guys, like Akins last year was not a bad 3-point shooter. I don't know why Akins can't shoot now. I don't know.
They're
I guess
20% from 3 on the year. It's
so bad. It makes for a tough watch. Now I will say about Michigan State, they are doing all of the Tom Izzo things very well. They're rebounding well. They run the floor well. They play selfless. They're physical. They all the hallmarks of Tom Izzo teams. Mm-hmm. They seem to be doing those things well. What they're struggling with right now is making shots and having talent. But if they're not going to fix the talent thing, but if they can make shots, they could be.
Are they a tournament team?
I think so. I think they're a tournament team that maybe wins 1 game and then loses by 16 in second round. They're like a 10 seed. They'll get in as a 10 seed. They'll beat the 7 seed. And then we'll get all the Izzo and March tweets.
I was going to say
again. And then they'll play the 2 seed and lose by 16 and just, quietly go back to the East.
It's going to be the classic. You don't want to see Tom Izzo across the line in the 8-9 matchup or the 10-7, whatever.
Yeah, but they won by 16 in the Maui Invitational, so that's good. It feels weird that I'm criticizing Michigan State when they beat the shit out of Colorado. But Colorado
don't criticize them too much. Could they beat Memphis today, or is that crazy?
Yeah, they could. Of course,
that's
they
what
could.
I'm saying.
Yeah,
you might see them in the championship.
They'll be in the championship. Yeah, and then they could, if they have like North Carolina in the championship, Michigan State could win this thing.
You said
they could win.
I want this on record. Titus said the winner of the Maui should be number 1 in the country.
Michigan State should be. If Michigan State goes into a field with 3 top 5 teams,
it doesn't have to play any of them.
But they're playing the teams that beat the top 5 teams.
That would be something. Is if they go to Maui, the most loaded Maui field in recollection, and they go Colorado, and they play North Carolina in the championship.
They play Colorado, Memphis, North Carolina, and the best team they play is ranked 12th. Is Carolina ranked 12th right now?
They were, yeah.
Yeah. Make them number 1. I think so. Dude, it would not shock me at all if Michigan State wins this. I'm talking like long term. As you look at Michigan State, they have to make shots. They have to make threes. Like, you can't go 2 for 21. They're not going to go 2 for 21 every game, but I have seen nothing so far this year to give me confidence that they are going to be a good shooting team. Though the thing you would look at is last year, some of these players that aren't hitting shots right now have been good shooters in the past. So you trust that eventually they're going to figure it out, but otherwise...
You do, but again, they've played 2 teams with a pulse this year. They went 2 of 21 yesterday, and if you remember the Kansas game, they went 3 of 24.
I do.
And we sat right here, and we were like, well, at some point they got to make shots, right? And if they could have made shots, they wouldn't have lost Kansas by 8. Their biggest games, they're now 5 of 46. That's single digits.
That's brutal. Absolutely brutal. All right, Maui continues today. Fun day of hoops. We get the Maui Invitational. We also get Duke, Kansas tonight. Houston, Alabama tonight. Those 2 games are being played in Vegas. Duke and Kansas, the number 1 team in the country versus the team that Vegas still believes is the betting, or however you say it. They are the betting favorite.
To win the national championship.
They are the best team in the country per Vegas odds. Those 2 teams play tonight. Meanwhile, you get Alabama, Houston, 2 teams that are very much national title contenders and have lost already this season, games they probably feel like they shouldn't have lost, and this is a massive opportunity for both of them to get it right again. They're playing in the same city at the same time, too. They're playing 1 hour apart, but the games will be going on at the same time. How does this happen?
I don't know.
How does this happen? How does... You don't get a prize fight in Vegas at the MGM Grand as another one's going on at the fucking Caesar's Palace.
Thank you, TJ.
Good job, TJ.
It's like if 2 friends decide to have their wedding on the same day in the same town. Because these games are awesome tonight. These are better than the Maui semis right now.
And they're playing. Where are they playing? The one's at T-Mobile, obviously.
Kansas Duke's at T-Mobile. Houston, Alabama's at MGM Grand.
Okay, so could you do both? I'm trying to think if I would try to do both. I would try to do the 2 dates at the same time. Like you just said, you're going to 2 weddings. Now I'm thinking of pulling a Connor Griffin and having 2 dates in one night, where you're out to dinner with one girl and you're like, I got to go to the bathroom real quick. And then you run to another section of the restaurant around the corner.
You could do Houston, Bama. So it starts at 7 tonight.
Yeah.
For us. Duke, Kansas is at 8. You could do first half, second half.
First half, second half? Yeah. Yeah, you could do that.
What game would you rather go to? Houston, Bama, Kansas, Duke?
I'm going to go ahead and say Kansas, Duke.
I was going to say Kansas, Duke is – you're high on Duke. You're very high.
Yeah, let's talk about Duke for a second. So Duke, Arizona was Friday night. Duke playing in McHale Center against an Arizona team that has not lost 2 games in a row under Tommy Lloyd at all and under any context. It was we said it going into the game. It's not a must-win. It's early November. There's no such thing as must-wins in early November, but it felt like the closest thing you could get to a must-win for both of these teams. That Duke, the last time they played Wofford in between, but the last time Duke played a team on a scale such as this, Cooper Flagg, had the turnovers against Kentucky. The last time we saw Arizona, they got kind of blown out against Wisconsin. It was a parade to the free throw line. It was a gross basketball game, and if you're an Arizona fan trying to make excuses, you would say that didn't even resemble basketball, and we get back to playing our game, we're going to be all right. So yeah, this was a get-right game for both teams, and Duke just absolutely dominated defensively. Dominated. To do what they did on Arizona's home floor. Now, I know Arizona is not as talented as Arizona teams have been in the past. I think ultimately this Arizona team is going to fluctuate in the bottom of the top 25. I think where they're ranked now is probably where they belong.
17.
Yeah, they're going to be towards the bottom of the top 25, might fall unranked and then get back into the rankings. They are not probably a top 10 Arizona team per talent, and they also have the Caleb Love problem, which we kind of alluded to with like RJ Davis. But I can't say enough good things about Duke's defense. To a team like Arizona that pushes tempo, I should say, is very much offensive minded. Their bread and butter is, as a program, as a culture, is scoring the basketball and getting out and going. To score 55 points on your home court is insane and is indicative of how good Duke's defense is. I think Ken Pom backs it up. I think Duke is the best defense in the country. I was saying in the preseason, I watched them play one scrimmage against Arizona State, and I said Duke is going to be at the very least a top 5 defense in college basketball. I think I sold them short. I think Duke has the potential. I think right now they are the best defense, and I think if they if they are not the best defense in college basketball the entire season, there's something wrong either schematically or with effort, because the talent is just insane. The length is insane defensively, and that's my takeaway from the Duke-Arizona game.
That was a complete ass whooping. At a tough place to play, at your place. That was for as many, they go up this much and then they come back in the second half as we've seen in recent days. That was a dominant defensive performance in the first half and a dominant defensive performance in the second half. The
conversations about Indiana football coming out of the Ohio State football game was like they don't belong on the same field. Like they're a good team, no disrespect, but like they don't belong on the same field as the elite team. I felt that way watching Arizona Duke, where I was like, Arizona is I'm not. They're going to make the tournament. They're a fine basketball team. They're whatever. They are not. They're not even close to the same level as Duke.
And that's where it gets interesting because, like you said, they're 17 right now. They might be at the bottom of the top 25, depending on how good they are. Duke just kicked the absolute shit out of them.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm very high on Duke right now. I'm interested to see Duke Kansas tonight. I think that Dickinson Malawach matchup is going to be very interesting.
Oh yeah.
I'm as high on Cooper Flagg was awesome, and like you've been saying, defensively, things you don't see in the stat line, he's the best at. I think Malawach is right up there too.
The Duke offense, the offense is going to be their issue. Can they get enough out of not just tonight? I'm saying like for the season. Mm-hmm. Can they get enough out of Proctor and Foster? Mm-hmm. Can the Cooper Flagg ISO situations that we talked about after the Kentucky game? Can he clean those up a little bit, or like just have a little more intention with what he's doing? Can Con Knipple rein in a little bit the heat check shots when he's not even hot, and he's just like he's just like on permanent heat check mode, which is mostly fine. If they can like dial that in and tweak that a little bit, they are the best team in the country. I think Duke has the highest ceiling. I don't think that's controversial to say at all. I think that's pretty obvious. That's pretty. You watch. The only way I think you could argue otherwise is just you're a Duke hater or something. Like I'm just talking ceiling. Like when Duke is at their best, they are very obviously the best team in the country to me.
Does their bench bother you at all? Looking at their box score, they only played 3 dudes and had 8 bench points against Arizona, which is interesting because again the game was so dominant. I
don't think it does. I don't think it does. What bothers me is more the reliance on freshmen, I think.
Sure.
That worries me a little bit. Now teams have won national title. Duke's done it before. Kentucky did it in 2012. Duke did it in 2015. Like you can rely on freshmen. But I heard one of the ESPN talking heads throughout the stat about the difference with some of these the Duke and Kentucky teams that won the national titles, I guess, was their freshmen weren't their top 2 leading scorers, I guess. Like someone said that about going in the Duke Arizona game. I forget what the stat was. I should have done a better job at this. Probably should have written it down before I came on the show to say it. That their top 2 scorers are freshmen, Knipple and Flagg, obviously, and like no team has done something significant with that being the case.
Well,
your top 2 are freshmen.
Say this: their top 2 are going to be freshmen.
Yeah,
that's obvious by now.
Yeah, because
so you're saying when Anthony Davis was at Kentucky, I mean, he averaged 14 points a game, 14 and 10.
Who were the leading scorers for the Kentucky team?
What year was that?
Because the 2015 Duke team had Quinn Cook. He was a senior on that team, and even though the freshmen were, you had Tyus Jones and Justice Winslow and Jaleel Okafor, Quinn Cook was, I think, the second leading scorer on that team. Okafor is probably the leading scorer. The 2012 Kentucky team, who was,
I have it here.
Anthony Davis.
Yeah, Anthony Davis was leading scorer. Lamb was next. They had 5 dudes average double digits, 6 dudes average double digits, but Kid Gilchrist, Teague, Jones, Lamb, Davis, Darius Miller.
Deron Lamb was their second leading scorer?
Yeah, 13.7.
Yeah, so, I guess that's the stat. Anthony Davis was their leading scorer?
14.2.
I mean, for how good he was, I shouldn't be surprised by that, but
Dude averaged 4.7 blocks a game.
Yeah, he was insane. Yeah. I remember games where it was like he wasn't really scoring at all, and he was dominating the game, just completely dominating. That I would have guessed he wasn't their leading scorer. Yeah, so no team has had freshmen
Be their top
two and like go to a Final Four or something, or go to a national champ. I don't know. Who gives a shit at this point? But that would be the concern with Duke, is just we kind of like what we kind of saw from Rutgers at Kennesaw State, which we don't need to bring TJ in the conversation. I feel bad for TJ. We don't need to beat him over the head with it.
Do you want to give thoughts, TJ?
Yeah, I kind of said a little bit of this on Mostly Sports, that every time that Rutgers kind of enters the eco space of athletics programs that can be competitive, we come crashing back to earth like this. So I was expecting this at some point. I think Kennesaw State circled this as like the biggest game in program history. So it makes sense that they got up for it. It was their third ever sellout at that. That gym, by the way, looked awesome.
It's awesome, yeah. It does look awesome.
Bad pass,
Ace.
Probably shouldn't have been down by
Ace.
21.
Just go ahead and shoot it, Ace.
You go ahead and take it yourself.
Just go ahead and
Why don't you go ahead and take it yourself?
Go ahead and Ace Bailey. If we're gonna go back to Georgia, where you're from, and play in front of your hometown, and you're down 2 with the ball in your hands, and you're not particularly double teamed. It wasn't like wasn't like they were throwing a quadruple team at him, a septuple team at him, an octuple team at him.
Yeah.
Why don't you just go ahead and shoot that, Ace?
Most of the time, I would advise don't be a hero, but in that case, go ahead and be the hero.
Be the hero.
But
the how that game played out, though, was the concern, I guess, for Rutgers with the freshmen. They're obviously super talented, but college basketball has a way of, like Cooper Flagg dealt with it with Kentucky. Where there are just moments where it's like you expect like a superstar whistle, or you expect like you just kind of look at the bench. You're like, God damn, they're physical as fuck right now, or they're the wheels start falling off and everything's not going as perfectly as you thought it would. And do you have the fortitude as a freshman on the road to like find a way to win this game, or like lock in and not let all that bother you? Because that's going to happen to Rutgers all season, is like guys, every single team they play is going to realize that they're going up against 2 of the top 5 picks in the NBA draft, and all eyes are going to be on this game. And I'm not going to let these fucking freshmen. I'm not scared of these dudes. I'm gonna get mine against them and show the scouts that I can. And they're going to go out there next every single time.
The pretty logical game plan to beat Rutgers is like take the ball out of those 2 guys' hands as often as you can. So it makes sense too that they would like be physical. So like that's going to happen. Unfortunately, the follow-up game is tonight against Notre Dame at 10:30 p.m. Eastern in Vegas, and the last time we played against Notre Dame at 10:30 p.m. Eastern was the first 4 game in 2022 that went to double overtime, and we lost. So, and then our next,
and then Bama
and Houston.
Bama and Houston tomorrow.
I don't know. It should be a fun week.
That actually will be an awesome game. I think Rutgers Notre Dame.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what they look like against like I'm kind of scared because the fact that they lost to Kennesaw State leads me to believe that they're going to lose to Alabama and Houston by 500 points. But
yeah.
It'll be fun to watch, I guess.
But what happened to Rutgers at Kennesaw State is one of the things you'd worry about with Duke. Now Duke is as a team way more talented than Rutgers across the board. But when you're relying on freshmen, that would be the concern. Is just that like you're on the road and fans are yelling just insane shit at you, and I don't know, things aren't going, your shots aren't falling, and
you're 18, and you look at the next person, he's 18, and you look at the next person, he's 18,
and the ref, like the whistle the ref's giving you is like you can't quite figure it out. You're getting frustrated. You're getting in foul trouble. You're like, I'm gonna get you know what? I can't hit any shots. I'm gonna get an easy one real quick, and you put your head down and try to get to the bucket, and the guy flops, and they call an offensive foul on you, and you're like, you gotta be fucking kidding me, and you're losing. Like these things happen in college basketball, and that's something that could trip Duke up, but honestly it might happen like 1 or 2 games, I think, and like it's not. I can't say enough good things about this Duke team, and I think they're the betting favorite to win the national title for a reason. Now that's not to say they're the only team that can win it. It's not to say it's Duke versus the field. It's not. I don't think it's that at all. I think there are a lot of good teams, but I'm fascinated for tonight because I expect Duke to win, and Duke is favored. Is that not interesting?
I didn't know that.
Duke is favored. The number 11 team in the country is playing the number 1 team in the country on a neutral floor, and the number 11 team is favored by, I think, like 3.5 when I saw this morning.
I stand by that. I think one of their biggest weaknesses will be if Malawach cannot play or is in foul trouble. I think when he is out of the game, that's when Kentucky made the comeback and took the lead on Duke.
Yeah.
I think he is invaluable as a rim protector and as an inside presence for them.
I think he might be the best rim protector in college basketball,
awesome.
which the stats won't bear that out because he's only averaging a block or two a game. And I'm sure there's guys averaging way more blocks a game, but he's such a presence for them.
Yeah.
And and they're so good. Their perimeter defense is so good that in the rare occasions you do get past Tyrese Proctor or Cooper Flagg, you beat him off a dribble or you use a ball screen to get, and you get into the lane. Now you have Malawach to deal with, and it's a fucking night.
You go from you go from 7-2 to 6-9 when they sub in. So
they're down. It's down to 2.5, but Duke is favored.
And you like Duke tonight?
I mean, I think Duke's better. So I don't. Anything can happen, and it's obviously Kansas is very good, but I think this feels like the not that Cooper Flagg needs the coming out party because we all know who he is already, but this feels like the game where the hype train gets pushed in overdrive. And I'll say this about Cooper Flagg too. He when we were talking about Duke earlier in the season, I had a prediction that Con Knipple would lead them in scoring because Cooper Flagg wants to do all the little things. I think my argument is that Cooper Flagg is not as concerned. Like he can bring so much more to the table than just scoring. Whereas Con Knipple is a shooter and he's a bucket and that's what he's out there to do. So I thought as the season wore on, Con Knipple was going to be the guy that was shooting like 15 to 20 times a game, and Cooper was still going to average like 15 to 20 points, but Con Knipple would average a few more than him. When the lights are the brightest. Now, what I said about Cooper has been true against the lesser competition. Like against Wofford, I think you only had 8 points, and he's like, I'm good. I'll share it a little bit and do some of the little things. When the lights are the brightest, and he's playing in Arizona, and he's playing in Kentucky, and I know the end of the Kentucky game did not go his way, but that dude shows up and he puts on a show, and he stuffs the stat sheet.
They've played. He's only gone over 20 points twice this year, and it was against Kentucky and it was against Arizona.
Right.
Every other game, he's shooting 8 times a game, 10 times a game. Big games, 22 shots, 19 shots.
That's why I expect tonight. This isn't like this is not a guarantee. This is not me saying bet on it. This is another. I don't do that. I understand. This is college basketball. Shit can happen. Cooper Flagg might get in foul trouble in the first half and like play 16 minutes in this game and suck, but the way my fantasy booking that I have in my head is that this is the Cooper Flagg coming out. Like, and the Kentucky game was kind of that, and then everyone came away from that game saying he's a fraud because down the stretch he didn't make the clutch plays. And I think he atones for those sins tonight and has a monster game against Kansas because he does. When the lights are bright, he balls out. But Kansas is a good team. That's not me. Kansas fans, don't take it the wrong way. I'm not saying I don't believe in your team. But Duke's really fucking good. So I'm excited to watch that tonight. Excited to watch the rest of the Maui Invitational. What a week for college basketball. This is unbelievable. I love Feast Week so much. It's the best. It really is. It's the best week until the conference tournament.
So they were talking about that yesterday. Would you take Feast Week over conference tourney week? These matchups are substantial. Like Houston, Bama, Kansas, Duke. We had Auburn, Iowa State.
I think I might, honestly. I think you're supposed to say no because conference tournament week is March, and it's leading up to the big dance. And there's more at stake because teams are trying to play their way into the tournament and fighting on the bubble and fighting for one seed and stuff. But in terms of like just the pure joy I have watching the basketball, I think it's Feast Week. I think like it being – obviously, it wouldn't happen if it wasn't for Thanksgiving, but I think for me personally, that helps too. Is like knowing that I'm not working tomorrow, I'm not working Thursday, I'm not working Friday. I can just sit there and watch basketball all day. It's fucking awesome. It's the best. So, and especially now I'm a Maui guy. I'll always be a Maui guy, but all these other tournaments that have popped up have made it even better because you have this Vegas situation, this is year one for this, right? This is the first time this is the Terry's Chocolate.
There's Terry's Chocolate, and then there's the Players.
But there's two of them. Yeah, one's the Terry's Chocolate.
Terry's Chocolate is Duke, Kansas, Seattle, and Furman.
Oh.
The Big Four.
The other one is the NIL Players Era.
That's right. I thought somehow Duke and Kansas were involved in that one, but they're in the Terry's Chocolate. Right. And the other one's the Players, and we have the Battle for Atlantis, and we have Maui, the Baja Mar, which Tennessee won. Tennessee's good.
Tennessee is good.
Tennessee's really good. Tennessee, Chaz Lanier is
how good is he?
Really, really fucking good. I said I did. So to me, it was the way I framed it was you had Braxton Key, you had Dalton Connect on opposite ends of the spectrum, and I thought Chaz Lanier was going to fall right in the middle. He is very much closer to Dalton Connect than he is Braxton Key.
Big T says they are better than they were last year.
That's what. Yeah, he told me that. He told me that the other day too. Hang on a second.
Listen, they don't play anybody for the next set. They don't play anyone until they got Arkansas at the beginning of the year. They might be 15-0.
I knew I got that wrong. Braxton Key played at Virginia. As that came out of my mouth, I was like, it wasn't Braxton Key. It's Tyreek Key. As I was thinking of. Tyreek Key and Dalton Connect. Yeah, they might be 15. They're very good. The defense is very good. The offense is. Big T's argument was that Dalton Connect was the entire offense, and Chaz Lanier isn't the entire offense. He's just a really good piece of a greater picture.
Okay.
I still don't trust. Like they have some good wins and they've been playing well, but I think that like I gotta get to the heart of conference play to see if I really trust that, because I think there's a very good chance that by the time we're in the heart of SEC play, it has just become you're now our offense, Chaz Lanier, and we're back to like what last year was, which they were really fucking good last year. But I don't think he's as good as Dalton Connect, but yeah, he's I misspoke. Sorry to the Braxton Key Tyreek Key confusion. Between the Tyreek Key, Dalton Connect, on the Tyreek Key, Dalton Connect spectrum, and the reason I use those guys is those are the transfers that they brought in to run the offense. Tyreek Key didn't work out. Dalton Connect is a super duper star. I think Chaz Lanier so far is like a 7 on that scale. If Dalton Connect's a 10, he's like a 7 or an 8 right now, and he could be even better than that. So I like this Tennessee team a lot. There are a lot of teams I like. I'm liking college basketball. I love college basketball.
This has been quite the start.
I miss Bill Walton. I love Maui. I want everybody to love Maui as much as I love Maui. And I can't wait to watch more about college basketball. Is there anything else before we get out of here?
No, just congratulations to the newest Big Ten front runner in the Ken Palm rankings,
That's right.
Ohio State Buckeyes.
That's right. We did it. Hang the banner.
Stop the count.
Stop the count. November 26th, we were the number 1 team on Ken Palm in the Big Ten, which is as prestigious as it gets, really. That's I'm trying to think of what else I wanted to talk about.
Congrats to Cavalry on the big win.
Oh, yeah.
What was the score?
Cavalry won 92-9. Was it? That was the final?
So they covered the 24-point spread.
I gave it a 24-point spread. I forgot about that. Good call, TJ. I gave it a 24-point spread. I was trying to be nice to Free Lutheran. I'm Cody. You're with me on this. You're just as obsessed as I am with Free Lutheran basketball.
I can't get enough of these guys, man.
I did.
The group chat was popping off, and then I realized it was just me and Cody texting each other, and we didn't even need the group chat. I should just text Cody. I watched every second of the first half of this game. Not only that, I FaceTime my dad, and I called my dad and I said, Dad, drop what you're doing. He's watching his grandkids, and I was like, Dad, put the grandkids down. I need you to get to a TV right now. Pull up YouTube, watch Free Lutheran basketball. I'm trying to think of the amount of money I would pay to guarantee that this team would win a game, because I am so bought in on like wanting to see them win at some point now, that if you told me that I could just write a $5,000 check and get them to win a basketball game, I think I would do it, because I'm becoming so obsessed with like them getting over the hump. Now, I do want to see them lose by 100 like 5 more times, so then that way the payoff's a little bit better. But right now, I'm just envisioning a world where like I'm crying on my couch because they just won a basketball game. I'm watching on YouTube and I'm just wiping tears. I'm like, oh my God, they did it! I can't believe they did it.
Their schedule is such an enigma to me. First of all, they got a gauntlet coming up. They got Crown Minnesota's JV team next. Then they go to the University of St. Boniface, where they have a January 10th Friday night 8 p.m. game. And then they play the same team the following morning.
Yeah,
the old day-night doubleheader, night-day doubleheader.
They had that Friday. They played at what, like 7 p.m. and then at 9 a.m. the next morning. They didn't just do it back to back. They had like 2 games in a.
They play the same team.
They play the same team
twice back to back.
But they take like 3 weeks
plus.
That's
what I was gonna say. They played like 2 games in 12 hours, and then they're like, now let's take 3 weeks off.
They played last Friday and Saturday. Their next game is December 13th.
I'm so fascinated.
You know what I need to
them,
see
dude.
more than a Free Lutheran win is I need to see a Free Lutheran practice.
Yeah.
Like just let us go.
Did you watch? Have you seen them?
I just watched Cody. Cody had a little bit of stuff on his social.
Your homework while Feast Week's going on, and I know there's a lot of basketball to watch. If you're caught up in a Feast Week situation where it's like halftime of the good game and there's kind of no other good game going on, I implore everybody to go to YouTube and watch a little free Lutheran. But positive vibes only. I want to put that message out there as well. Like I will not be held responsible if my audience is like in the comments saying like these guys suck ass, you guys are fucking bums. We're not trying to spread that energy. We're trying to encourage these boys because I do think there is something motivational and inspirational about a team that loses by 100+ every time they take the floor and staring down the barrel of like 12 games left in their schedule and they're like, we're going to do it again. You know what? This might be the day. This might be the day that we pull out a win. It's like I genuinely don't know what keeps these guys going, and I'm fascinated by it. I want them to win so bad.
Who was it? Like the chancellor that was like, you might have think we just went 0-30, but we actually won.
Yeah, he wrote the open letter where he was like, this was a huge win because we grew as men or something. I don't know how they do it. I legitimately, if I lost by 100 one time, I would never play basketball again. And they just continue to say like, you know what? Maybe we can lose by 80 today. Maybe that would be an improvement. And one of these days, they're going to get a dub, and Cody and I will be there watching. You want to go to a game, Cody?
It's only 6 hours away.
You want to go to a game?
I want to go so badly.
I do too, actually, but I don't want to. What's it by? What can you fly there?
Yeah,
like is it by a major airport?
I think it's near Minneapolis.
It's by Minneapolis. So if you could fly to Minneapolis, yeah, I might do that. All right, that's the show. Enjoy the basketball, everybody, this week. Enjoy Thanksgiving. This is the only show this week. We'll be back. I mean, we did Tuesday's show today. I keep telling everybody we're going to do these Monday shows, but the problem is like the schedule becomes like Mondays. The problem is college basketball doesn't want to compete with football, right. So then like all the games are on Friday. And I want to do Monday to recap the weekend, but then you look up and you're like, what a good slate we have on Monday. Mm-hmm. We'll be back Monday, though, because there's so much going on Feast Week. Mm-hmm. I feel like we could do a show Monday morning after Thanksgiving and just talk for 4 hours about all the basketball. So we'll be back on Monday. Have a great holiday, everybody. Enjoy Feast Week. Goodbye.
Go Bucks.